probably even touch the ultimate highs. And again, even with that, that's a 1.5 hour. And so what people will do is like, oh, short here, and we're going to retrace the whole thing and then down into this gap. So we'll pick some random gap. Even that's a 1.87, which for a short in a bull market is just not good. So by every measurable metric, the market is skewed towards the upside. And the only people panicking are the people who got in too late into whatever alt it is, and now they're having to watch it bleed. So I just don't see the upside. If I am bearish, and if I think, which back to Bitcoin just briefly, Bitcoin to me is holding up really well, chopping people up, everyone trying to guess the fucking ETF approval too early. And what we have is the same as what we had in 2021, where it's in this sort of corrective phase just before the final run. And when I say final run, I mean just the run into the ETF. I don't know if it's the last run or whatever, but it's very much the same as we had over here, right? This was, a few days before the ETF approval, which was here. And you've got this kind of declining, choppy market that we're at now. And we're kind of somewhere in this area here. And then it pumped up a couple of days. Friday was the approval. This was Friday. Sorry, Friday was the approval. Here was the actual approval. So it rallied up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then we went sideways over that weekend. And then it went live here Monday into Tuesday. And then we topped out the following day, Wednesday. After that, especially if they go live on the 11th, which seems to be the indication here, which is next Thursday, that could be a top for sure. But I think the market itself is getting ready for the big approval. Bitcoin's going to be probably, I think very, very likely above 46, 47, 48 whenever that approval comes on, let's call it Monday. Right, Monday, end of day. And I think that we chop people up, but then we start to rise up and we pump into it, right? And then if they go live on Thursday, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the top. But if that happens, then you can reassess. I could reassess back over here or here and say, yeah, okay, definitely de-risk, take profit on my short-term Bitcoin long, de-risk alts and wait for the first sell-off and then get long alts, because alts will run, the alts especially that are beaten down will run after Bitcoin's ETF. I don't know if we have a really bullish January, February, and everything goes up. I don't know. We've already had a significant rally. I've been long since, I've been long all year basically with spot, and then actively taking longs on alts and everything just the whole way up. We've had a significant rally. We've had a great run. I'm not saying that there's going to be 6 more months of uninterrupted upside. But I also think that just by any way you kind of measure it, shorts are not the play. So it's basically the same thing, long or in cash if you're bearish. And being in cash is a risk. It's a risk. Because if you're in cash, that means you miss any upside. And so I'll go back to total 3 because we're just looking at alts here as a whole. And if we look at it on a weekly perspective, what I mean by cash being a risk is look at the chart. So again, if your upside on alts is new all-time highs for alts, and your downside is whatever, I don't know, just retracing the entire move all the way back to bear market lows, that's still 4 hour. That's positive risk reward. But you go into cash, then you have to time the market. Because if you went into cash right now, what happens if we break out? Then you're offside. Because then you need to what? Re-enter here in alts, but then it sells off. Like, the nature of the rounded tops and Wyckoff distributions or whatever, this is how they look. It's people, it goes one leg lower, right? People sell here and they de-risk. Maybe even you don't go short, you go into cash. Okay. And then what? And then it rallies up. You're like, no, it's just a lower high. And then it makes a new high. Then people are gonna, who sold here, are like, oh shit. And they buy back here. And then it deviates that high, comes back inside. And then they get bearish here. And then it bounces. And then they're chopped up and it goes higher. And over the whole thing, it was just one big shakeout. And when you go to a weekly chart especially, when you see such a strong weekly uptrend, with the market trading above the weekly bands and hasn't even tested the weekly bands yet, and has convincingly broke out and retested and held the breakout level, to me, it just doesn't seem like there's any good justification for shorts here. It's not smart, by the way. It's not smart. It's not. You're not clever, and you're not contrarian too. I see a lot of people thinking that, yeah, sell the news, weakness, blah, blah. But the weakness has already happened. You know, you're seeing stuff that's already having decent sell-offs, right, on daily charts. Like, look at Link. The momentum's clearly gone, right? It's clearly showing weakness. So when I'm saying, is Link bullish? No. But is it clearly bearish? The more clearly, air quotes, bearish it looks, the average person is going to look at this and say, oh, that's bearish, I should sell. But why should you sell? Because you think that Link has to go down to here, to its bear market lows? But why does it? Because the bear market's over, just like any previous bear market before. Like when it breaks out from a bottoming range, it doesn't tend to come back to it. So it broke out from this bottoming range. It's probably not going to come back to it. It's probably going to chop around. It could even go lower, but it's probably just going to hold and keep chopping and chopping and chopping and then go up. So you're trying to play really small moves. Because what if that's it? What if Link goes down another 20%? Like, that's not nice. It's not nice to see your Link bags go down another 20%. But you can't short it because your stop loss has to go 30% above. That's a shit risk reward. Understand? Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. Lido, same thing. Any of these ones that have been running up recently, they're just pushing up into these levels. Of course, like, I'm not long Lido. This is a false breakout, or a failed breakout at least, on Lido so far. But don't forget where these wicks are. Like this, any of these wicks, this is demand. And if the market comes back to that, it will continue to act as demand. And so if you don't sell the top, there's not a whole lot of point selling here or selling lower. It's better just hold your spot. The market's very forgiving. You might have to hold through a drawdown, but eventually everything is going to turn around and go higher. And that's more so what I'm talking about. And so Bitcoin dominance just continues to gain strength and is pushing towards new highs as altcoins weaken and Bitcoin strengthens. Bitcoin's consolidating after the biggest leverage shakeout that we've had since August on Bitcoin, right? The biggest leverage shakeout since August on BTC, where it's still holding the daily trend. And did it touch the weekly bands? No. 3-day bands held the 3-day bands, but the daily trend still holding. 4-hour trend, even the 4-hour trend, it was lost for a matter of hours and then fully reclaimed. Lost with one wick, retested, and we're back above not just the 200, not just the 100, we're back above the 50 as well. And 50 above 100 above 200. Even the 4-hour trend of Bitcoin is still intact. So I've seen this before. Also, of course, also weakening. People want to chase Bitcoin. And yes, the ETF trade part of it is probably coming to a close. But what are people going to do here? There's a difference when the ETF trade of 2021 ended, because that was at the end of a bull market. Everyone knew this. The only people who didn't were deluded. They were like, no, it has to go higher. We've got whatever narrative. No, we at that point, we'd gone up from March 2020, COVID, all the way to November 2021. So we'd gone up for 18 months. But this isn't that. We haven't gone up for 18 months. We've gone up for about 3 months. And if you count from the very, very, very bottom, we've gone up for about a year. But what you're looking at is if this bear market low is the same as this bear market low, and this peak is equivalent to this peak, right? And instead of the sell-off, we got a massive rally. People seem to ignore this too. The people are saying, oh, well, just, look at this. Look what we did in early 2020. Okay, we're going to get a repeat of it in early 2024. But then they're ignoring the fact that we went to clear new highs whenever we completely did not do that in 2019, 2020. So they're ignoring the fact that the market's acting different and then saying the market's going to act the same. Do you understand? This is fucking cognitive dissonance, in my opinion. If you were going to say that we were going to sweep lows and move back down and all this kind of stuff, then how do you explain the fact that we've completely invalidated the 2019 fractal? We've completely invalidated it by breaking out super strong here. So it just, whatever way I fucking shake it, it just doesn't seem like a smart move. And then the question becomes, where are you positioned from? So I'm in the position of being in from much lower. All of my Bitcoin buys are below 30k. Most of them are below 25. And my AKT is 55 cents. My only more recent buys, like Multibit, Pepe Coin, they're down, but I already sold earlier. I rebought Multibit, which I'm definitely not super bullish here. I don't like this reaction that we had. But I do believe there's going to be a bounce, right? And so even if I'm bearish, like a bearish result would be that. Like a BRC20 complacency bounce across the market, doesn't make new highs and just goes to a lower high. At which point, my re-entry was at 21 or something. At which point I could just sell there or sell here or sell here. Not sell here. And that's a fraction of my portfolio. Like 80% of my portfolio is Bitcoin, AKT. A bit of Ethereum, a bit of Solana, but that's all kind of the same setup because it's all the same Bitcoin that I'm just swapping around based on relative strength. So I don't see much that's really of concern here. Especially with alts being weak but Bitcoin being strong. That's just never, like almost never, basically never. Is altcoin weakness and Bitcoin strength, is that a bad thing? Almost never. It's the opposite. It's Bitcoin weakness and altcoin strength. And you're like, okay, that's where we're seeing probably late stage rally. But we're seeing the opposite. We had that period of alt outperformance where Total 3 went ahead, right? But that wasn't when we had Bitcoin weakness. This is the important thing. That wasn't when we had Bitcoin weakness. That was when we had Bitcoin consolidation. So the market cycle, the rotations, again, nothing, and I have to check myself here as well. Like you can't ever have rigid bias. But typically, when you see this, altcoins outperform, Bitcoin, not weakness, because look, higher low, higher low, higher low in here. So when altcoins were outperforming, Bitcoin was just consolidating. Then altcoins flush all the way back. I talked about this. I said literally this is exactly what I want to see. A flush back to where we broke out from. Flush there. We've pushed back now. We're retesting the breakout again. So alts are not, as a whole, don't get blinded by the one alt that you're looking at that's had a bad chart. Altcoins as a whole are retesting the breakout, right? Bitcoin's not weak. Bitcoin is very much strong. And so if that pattern holds true, then that's what you want to see. In a bull market, you have Bitcoin that runs and alts lag. Then Bitcoin goes sideways and alts run. Then the alts sell off and the money rotates back to Bitcoin, which is what we're seeing here. And then you see Bitcoin run again and alts lag. And then Bitcoin sells off and alts run. And then it's the top. Right? Bitcoin does a lower high over there and it's the top. Like here and here. Like that's where I'm looking at for next week or the week after. If all that happens, I'll de-risk all alts, just go back to Bitcoin. Apart from AKT, longer term bag. But you get the point. So, I don't know. Tell me in trading chat how you're feeling. Like, is everyone as? It seems to me that everyone's super bearish. Not like you guys in the campus, but on Twitter and YouTube, and there's still people talking about ETF rejection. there's still people talking about ETF rejection. If people were saying no, absolutely 100%, like if everyone I saw online was like 100% ETF's coming, even though it is, like the indications are literally, SEC were saying prepared for approvals, final, like dotting the I's and crossing the T's on Monday. That's what they're saying, right? And if every single person was saying ETFs are definitely coming no matter what, I'd be like, okay, cool. Even though they are coming, I'm like, all right, that's pricing in pretty well. But people are still saying rejection. 40%, there was a new poll, I think 40% of people think there's no ETF coming. As of yesterday. I just think people are not, like, we are far more in the weeds, all of us. We're far more in the weeds because we're traders and we're in the market of it. I think the average person just doesn't know what's happening. And all they see is, let me pick one. All they see is, what was a hyped up coin that a normie would have bought? I don't know. What the fuck would normies buy? Maybe Injective or something. Right? Because Injective was like the hype one. So normies didn't know what Injective was all the way up here. Then they hear about it. Oh, Injective. They buy Injective, they buy Injective, they buy Injective. And then it's big shakeouts. They get wrecked and it bounces up. And even though Injective like looks good, people are bearish because, oh no, it's bad. Or Avalanche. Oh, I remember Avalanche. This is a good one. Like, oh, average player. Like, I remember Avalanche from last cycle. Yeah. So they get excited here and they buy here and they buy here and they buy here. Then it does this and it declines. And like, so the average person who doesn't know about the ETF timing or any of that, they've had to, like, if they bought AVAX at the top, they've had a 40% drawdown already. So of course they're bearish. They bought the top and got wrecked 40%. I'm not out here advocating to buy AVAX. I don't think AVAX is a good buy, even though I actually do think it bounces sooner than later. But I understand why people are bearish, but they're just offside. They're on the wrong side of the market. And then look at this. Just look at red, 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 red. It's all red. It's all scary. It's all. Let me get a heat map on. Not stocks. Fuck stocks. Heat map for crypto. So the average person looking at crypto is like, holy fuck, it's all over. We're done. We're dead. It was all a scam. The only things that aren't red is Tether and USDC, right? And like one or two others. So yeah, of course they're bearish. because they just look at things, and if it's red, it's bad. If it's green, it's good. So, especially if we go lower, all I just see is more panic selling, more panic selling, more panic selling, and so I'm happy enough here. That's it, GM. What are we doing? Next one is going to be today's live stream, 5 p.m. ETC. I'm going to be looking at 2024 plans. Yes, 2024 plans. Maybe dropping that. See you then. GM, GM, GM.